What is going on, guys? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. I hope you guys are having yourselves a spectacular day. And I hope it is summertime for you, because Lord knows it is finally nice out here in Canada. And I am happy that the sun is out, and hopefully I can get myself a decent tan. Just a couple things to announce before I introduce today's guest, where we had sexologist Dr. Tara on. And man, absolute banger. But before we get into that, I just want to talk about a couple things. First and foremost, getting more videos on YouTube as requested by a lot of you guys who are telling me, hey man, I want to actually watch this video. So I said, hey, I'll start putting some of them up. I am working on that. I'm working to get a lot more good stuff on the website for you guys. So just a heads up, getting YouTube started. And also, one thing I realized I got to add is I started up a TikTok as well, and been doing really well there. So yeah, if you're on TikTok, be sure to follow Masking Health Solutions on TikTok. Still on Instagram, still doing all that good stuff. And again, if you are looking to get started in PE, be sure to check out Gel to Grow. I got the links in the description below. Be sure to check it out, because absolutely nothing is gonna do it for you in the same way that Gel to Grow really works when it comes to male enhancement, PE, and just helping you in your journey, man. And more than anything, like I said before, the recovery has just been fantastic. Going through my tins like a madman, so make sure you get yours by clicking the link in the description below. All right, now let's talk about today's guest. All right, so today's guest was Dr. Tara. She is a tenured professor of relational and sexual communication at Cal State Fullerton, an award-winning researcher, relationship coach, and she is the person behind LoveBites.co and a podcast host at Love Bites by Dr. Tara's podcast. You can see her work on all kinds of different media, such as Cosmo, Women's Health Magazine, Hello Giggles. She recently gave a TED Talk, and the link is in the description, on how to become sexually powerful, that highlights her 5,000 participant study examining factors that predict sexual satisfaction, and her journey from a sexually anxious girl from Thailand to a sexually confident woman. And guys, it was an absolute blast. It was a pleasure. We got into talking about different things, from sexual confidence to why guys have ED these days, and why they're suffering from ED at 21 years young, which to me really blew my mind, but apparently it's something that is happening. So we also talked about what one of the strangest fetishes that exists, which I just out of curiosity's sake, I was like, well, now that I have you here, I kind of want to get experts input onto what the strangest fetish that exists possibly is. So stay tuned. That's almost at the end of the episode, so be sure to check out the full episode, and I hope you guys really enjoyed today's episode with Dr. Tara. All right, let's jump on in. It doesn't matter if you're a skilled veteran in PE or you're just getting started. You're gonna need some for your lubrication needs. And the best thing on the market is none other than Gel to Grow. That's right, Gel to Grow is the only thing that is made specifically for us PEers. So you don't gotta mess around with that oily mess that sometimes, well, if you're brand new and you're just getting started, you got no other alternatives. Sometimes we go down that road, but we don't have to anymore. We can go down the best road possible when it comes to using the right tools for PE, and that would include none other than Gel to Grow's balm. Doesn't make a mess, it helps you heal, it helps you moisturize, and I'm probably gonna go through about 20 of these tins this year, so make sure you get yourself one too. I swear by it because I use it, baby, and make sure you get yours too. Check it out at geltogrow.com. Click the link in the description below. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm joined by none other than Dr. Tara, who is a sex expert who's going to help us out, shed some light on certain things that we should not be ashamed to talk about, along with just, expanding our horizons as far as, what sexual satisfaction really means. So Dr. Tara, how are you today, ma'am?
Hi, CJ. Thanks so much for having me here today. It's my pleasure.
Hey, you know what? Like I was telling you before when we were just talking off air, I think all the guys out there need to hear this, myself included, because, sometimes we get a little bit stubborn and we think we got all the answers and we look at sex the way we do everything else. We're like, I know the mechanics of it. I'm going to make this work, performance based, bam, bam, bam. It's not working.
Yeah. There's so much pressure for men, like being a woman. I know the kind of pressure I experience, and I talk to females, I talk to women all the time about like the kind of, shortcomings that we experience. But at the same time, looking on the other side, like there's so much pressure for men. Like
Yeah.
first you have to get it hard, you have to get her in the mood, then you have to perform, like there's so many different like maneuvers you have to do, and then you can't just like lose an erection halfway, but then you can't also come too fast, so you have to like think of like things that turn you on, but also like not too turned on because then I'll come too fast. Like there's so
Yeah.
many things going on. And porn has not helped men
Oh, no.
feel secure about themselves and their sexuality at all. In fact, it has helped them feel very anxious when it comes to sex. So I feel, yeah, I think there's a lot of things when it comes to sex that men have to consider, and maybe the society doesn't like cut them any slack.
I don't think anybody really does. I mean, I know my wife sure doesn't, but she's very communicative, so that's good. She's like, "No, I want more of this. I need more of that."
Nice.
So that's always
Yeah,
good.
see,
And I
that's
mean,
necessary.
yeah, and she just puts it out there like, "No, I'm not. You're lacking here, dog." Like, and
Well,
she'll
but
just tell me.
the reason why she's able to also communicate her desires is because you guys have set up your relationship in
Mhm.
that way. You provide emotional security so that your wife is in a space where she can speak about these things. I'm going to tell you the truth. A lot of men do not provide emotional security and safety in a way that their wives or girlfriends are able to speak about sex.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
I
there's
want.
something that you do too outside of sex that allows her to feel more comfortable talking about sex.
I mean, I wanted to cut you off right there because I want to ask you exactly how does one go about creating that? Like maybe I did, like without knowing it, but
Right.
for anybody listening who could really benefit from that, like how do you go about creating that dynamic in the relationship?
Love that question. Let me ask you some questions,
Yes.
and you will probably answer your own question. So, um outside of sex, right? Like in general, like at home, do you ask her questions about herself and her day?
Oh yeah. All the
Okay.
time. Yeah.
So like what kinds of questions do you typically ask? Like
Well, I
what kinds of
mean,
questions come up?
let's say typical day, it's just kind of like, what kind of character did you have to deal with at work? Oh yeah, that same person. Ah yeah, no, I know. That's just annoying. This, that, and the other. What were your task lists like? Just random stuff,
Okay.
more than
Life
anything.
stuff.
Yeah.
But you ask her questions
Yeah. Yeah, I
and you
do.
do that regularly.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah, I guess I
Okay.
do.
And when she tells you these stories about work, about whatever, about driving, about grocery shopping, about her friends, do you attentively listen?
Yeah, I do. I do. Yeah.
You listen to her and you nod and then you go, "Oh my God, what?" Or do you look at
Yeah.
your phone?
No, no. Usually I'm driving, so it's very easy. I'm just like, oh yeah, I can't believe that, And I mean, it is genuine though, but yeah, no, for sure.
Right. Okay. So you give her feedback, support, and attention, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And when she feels down, let's say in a particular moment where she's very like either depressed or disappointed in something, disappointing news, bad news, how do you show up?
Oh, that one's easy because that one's nonverbal. I learned about that. It's just kind of go and embrace. So that one's simple.
Yes. So you're there for her, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever said something along the line of, "Don't worry about it, it'll get solved," or don't cry, or don't feel bad?
No, maybe at the beginning, but this is going back, I guess, 13 years or 12 years now. But
Wow.
yeah, it's been a while, but
Right.
but not anymore, no, because now it's just, I guess with time, it kind of came with maturity too, because I just, I started to see the ill effects of that too, right? So I was just like, you know what, maybe I should just shut up and just, just hold.
Yeah, be there, right? Your
Yeah.
presence speak a million words. Okay. Everything you just said is the answer to your question. How do you
Gotcha.
want to build a relationship where there's emotional security and your woman feels safe with you? Is to be present, be attentive, listen, give feedback, and ask her questions. These
Yeah.
are the things that you're already doing. That is one of the reasons why tells you, she speaks up about sex to you, is because there's emotional security. A lot of men are not, they say they do it, but they don't actually do it with intention. Yeah,
Mhm.
maybe they ask their wives or girlfriend like, how's your day? And then they kind of look at their phone and carry on with their day without sitting and like paying attention or giving feedback, right? And
Yeah.
support. Um, there will be couples where, the wife or girlfriend would say, are you even listening? Like, why do you ask if you're gonna like look at your phone or watch TV? Right.
Yeah.
So you showing up uh with your presence, with your attention, with feedback and support and asking more questions, all of these things, when you do it continuously, I'm not saying you're going to do it one time and, oh my God, she's going to start talking to you about sex. Like, hell no, it takes time. But I, I can guarantee you, if you do it for a couple of weeks to a month, she will start opening up because now she
Hmm.
feels like you are consistent, you are
Yeah.
reliable, and I can open up. And if I can open up about work, about life, about things I'm scared of, then I can open up about sex.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because that makes perfect sense. I remember reading back in the day when I was just getting started my whole marriage journey, but it's like, you
Yeah.
want to get laid more often, go do the groceries, go clean up the house. And I was like, what does this have? This is the worst. This is the worst advice I've ever heard in my life. However, it did work, right? And it kind of goes to that, like, you show love in different ways. And the foreplay for her was
Yes.
completely different than mine, I guess, where I was just like, yeah, let's go. And she's just more like, I need to be relaxed.
Exactly. And you're like speaking all the right things. Like, it sounds unrelated, but it's very much related. It's when you, let's say, when you're the person that's like, hey, I'll do the dishes from now on because you cook, right? Then it's speaking love in a different way. It's acts of
Mhm.
service.
Gotcha.
And if you think like anything that will get women wet is acts of service. Especially in
Note to
long-term
self.
relationships, right? Because yes, like affirmations, like I love you, I care about you, I'm here for you, like these things are great, but
Mhm.
you can say these things and not have the actions to back it up.
Yeah.
That's why acts of service, when sometimes when I say this, people laugh. Like, acts of service will get her wet because it's the actions. It's the actions. Because now that we've, for the men that are listening, if you've been with your girlfriend or wife for a while, like past 5 years, the affirmations part mean a little bit less and the actions mean a little bit more.
Yeah.
So
And
acts of
that,
service as your love language is key.
because that makes perfect sense. And it's funny you mentioned that, yeah, the different love languages. I thought at the beginning of it, I'm like, just more gifts, I guess. It's like,
Right.
that kind of runs
Yeah.
dry when it's like, hey, the daily tasks, like there's a bunch of dishes there that could get cleaned, there's a floor that could be mopped. And just like, yo, this doesn't make any sense.
If there's a shit ton of house chores, but you buy her flowers, like, do the chores get done?
Exactly. Yeah. You start to
Right.
realize that. And
All
even now
right.
that I got my kids, where I'm like, hey, help me out. They're like, they're not interested either. So
Right. Acts of service, yeah, it speaks loudly when it comes to like showing love and also like building sexual interest, because
Mhm.
now she has more room to play, more room to
Exactly.
think about sex, more room to think about having, sexual experience with you, right?
Yeah. No, I love that because that makes perfect sense, which kind of leads me to my next question. So now it's like, okay, you get that part of the way, she's more
Yeah,
interested, she's open.
right.
What is actual satisfaction from the female side of things?
Yeah. So that I love this question because like my research, so my work is on sexual satisfaction, but also like as a woman and having a lot of female friends and female clients, I know for a fact what we all looking for.
I could imagine.
Yeah. Um we want to feel deeply desired during
Gotcha.
sex. So satisfaction derives from feeling like you guys really want us. We
Mhm.
want to feel deeply desired. We want to, well, obviously, orgasm is important too, right? Because, like, let's say we already feel deeply desired. What's next? Then, of course, we
Exactly.
want to experience pleasure. And orgasms come in really different shapes and forms. So, we should talk about that too. But
Yeah.
basically, we want to feel deeply desired and we want to feel pleasure and that satisfaction. So, the deeply desired part is done through attention. When you have sex with me, do you seem distracted? When you have sex with me, are you looking at me and you're consumed by our activity and my body and my eye contact? Or are you thinking about something else and you seem shut off?
Mhm.
These are the key of showing her that you deeply desire her.
Yeah.
So
Which
that part needs to be there. If that part isn't there, it doesn't matter how good your hips are. It doesn't matter how big your dick is. Uh, the feeling deeply desired part has to be there. That's the best sex for women.
Gotcha.
Is feeling, oh my God, like he wants me so bad, feeling deeply desired. And I think it's vice versa. That's why I
Yeah.
teach women the same thing. He wants to feel like he's king to you. Like
Mhm.
he wants to appear like naked and you're just like, oh my God, I want to fuck you. Right? Like that's what people want. So yes,
Yeah.
like you have to pay attention. You have to make eye contact. You have to be in it 110. So that's feeling deeply desired. So now that part is set. Let's say in the foreplay where you go down on her, or grab her breasts and kissing, like let's say that part is there. Now the orgasm part. Uh,
Mhm.
let me tell you right now, not all women can come vaginally.
Yep.
Not all women can have vaginal orgasm. And I mean, like, is that shitty? Yes. But maybe communicate with her. Like, is it like what's your situation with vaginal orgasm? And I want you to feel like you can talk to me. Like, is it
Mhm.
something that you can achieve like pretty easily? Are there moves that help you get there? Are there things that I can do that help you get there? Or is it something you just like have never had and you don't know if you can?
Yeah.
And that's cool because you know what? Penetrative sex feels really good, even without that like orgasm, because you can also stimulate the clitoris on the outside and she will come, like she will have an orgasm on the clitoris. It's as strong as vaginal orgasm. They're both
Mhm.
orgasms. They're just from different body parts.
Yeah.
So if she's like, it's really hard for me to get a vaginal orgasm, stimulate the clitoris. That's how she's going to come and that's going to get her addicted or that's going to get her like wanting sex.
Yeah.
So
And that's
yeah,
kind
there you
of
go. The desire and the orgasms.
yeah, it's kind of well, you know what? It's like that 1-2 punch. You can't have one without the other. And you're right. It's almost like in that moment, we as guys, same as the girls, like we don't want to be, what's the word that we have for it? Where it's just like, flopping like a dead fish. Nobody wants that.
Yeah,
Nobody's
right.
into that.
No,
It's
no
like,
one. And that's the couples, the long-term couples, like married couples that I see in my practice is typically, let's say the husband will say, well, my wife doesn't put in any effort when we have sex. She just lays there. And then the wife will say, well, do you do these XYZ things outside the bedroom? So
mhm,
that's like very common.
interesting. So it's
Yeah.
almost like a dynamic you see more when the relationship's kind of burnt out, I guess.
Burnt out. And it becomes a blame game. Who doesn't do what?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's almost like I guess for even myself, I got to step it up, and I'm always, and I try to say I'm trying to get away from the performance side of things or calling it
Right.
performance because I found when we label it like that, it's like that goes back to I guess for a lot of us where we discovered sex from the porn side of things, we're just like, and it's like at the end of the day, that's not really it's not really real. It's cinematic, but it's
Right.
not real, right?
No, it's
However,
not.
for many of us guys, that's kind of that was our guiding point, I guess. But for now, as I get older, it's almost like, well, you know what? It falls on me. If I don't do my part, she's not going to do hers, and I'm able to
Right.
recognize that, right? But that kind of goes back to that communication. And my question to you, I guess, is if I'm in a relationship now for 20 plus years, or maybe it's in the first 5 years, and I
Okay.
don't know how to communicate these things, how would that person really instigate, that conversation?
Yeah. So here's the harsh truth. It's uncomfortable and awkward as fuck. But someone has to start. Someone has to start. And if you're listening to this, you already have a leg up. So you start. Someone has to. There's two people or more sometimes, the majority two people in a relationship. You can't just wait around. Someone has to start. It's time to accept it's going to be awkward. It's time to accept it's going to be a little difficult at first, but let's just do it. Right? It's like playing golf. You think someone just pick up a club and hit like a one hole in one? Like, hell no, right?
No.
It will be difficult, but you get better over time. So you can be the courageous person who starts. And now, how do you start? It's as simple as like, hey, I want us to talk about sex. What do you think about that?
Boom.
And the other person will be like, whoa, where's this coming from? Maybe they take it like offensively. Maybe they take it exploratory. Like, it just depends on the state of your relationship. The other person can be like, oh, sure. Or they can be, oh my God, yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. Or they can be, why are you bringing this up now? Do we have issues? Right? These are three different, very different on a spectrum. An angry response, inquisitive, curious response, and then a positive response, right? All kinds of response can happen, but it doesn't mean the outcome will be negative. All kinds of response can happen. The outcome can always be positive. So here's what happens after. I always recommend people to ask a sexy check-in question. And CJ, recommend you to ask this to your wife today. So like start with, I want to talk about sex, right? Like, hey, like, can we talk about sex? What do you think? How are we doing sexually? How are we doing sexually? And if the other person is not a communicative kind of person, go with ratings. I always go with ratings because I'm a quantitative person. So I go on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate our sex life right now? And I would also say, please be honest. I would love to hear the truth because that's where we can grow from.
100%. Yeah. That makes
so
perfect
on a
sense.
scale of 1 to 10, how are we doing with our sex life? How happy are you with our sex life? How satisfied are you with our sex life right now? So CJ, on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied are you with your sex life right now?
Well, me personally, I'd give it a 10. Well, no,
Okay.
I'll take that back. That's kind of gracious. I'd go with an 8. It's just a lack of frequency, but we got 2 kids. So it's like, you know what? You squeeze it in when you can.
But the intention is there. That's why you're not insecure, right? The intention is there. Like your wife isn't neglecting you or ignoring you, right? The intention is there. It's just physical, like logistical, like things.
Oh man, there is no time in our
right.
life.
But see, you're not upset because the intention is there and you know her and you trust her that there is intention. But the thing is, with a lot of couples, they feel neglected. They feel like there's no intention whatsoever. Like my partner completely forget about sex.
Yeah.
So that's why they feel insecure. That's why they feel bad. Right. So if you ask me the same question for this month, right? Because we just went to France for 2 weeks. We had a vacation. I'm going to say I'm at a 9.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I'm at a 9. And that -1 is probably because we I would like to do new things more. We have an amazing regular sex life that like includes like the amazing foreplay. I orgasm every time, so all these things are great. But I'm a kinky person and I want to try these other things, but he wants to, so we want that. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm sure if I ask him, he'll say a 9 because the 1 minus is from us wanting to explore. We don't have time because we're really busy, but we want to like go to, like a sex club or like this and that. We just don't have the time, but we want to explore that. But we would be at 9 because we just came back from a vacation. We've had tons of sex and great sex. Right. But when we work a lot, and we both do, I'd say sometimes I'm even at a 7, maybe sometimes even at a 6. Like sometimes he's out of town for 2 weeks, then he comes back super tired. Maybe I'm at a 6 or a 7. Right. And I want to share this on your podcast because, to be honest, like just because you're a sex expert doesn't mean you're at a 10 at all times. Right. My intention is always there. Like I always want to jump on him. Like I'm attracted to my partner. I always want to jump on, and it's been like quite a few years now. I've always want to jump on him, but it's not like we have the physical strength or the time sometimes. Yeah.
Oh, and that's 100%. And to your point, it's like, yeah, sure, you may be an expert, but you still have a life.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
that's what people, sometimes everybody will see you and be like, oh, you're doing XYZ and you got all the time in the world. It's like, no, I work with the time that I got. If I
Right.
had
For
more,
the
that
time
would
that I
be
got.
fantastic. However, I'm like, I got to pay, I got 2 kids, they're growing, they're getting bigger. I got to get a bigger car, I got to make more money. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's continuous, right? And
How
the
old
thing
are your
is,
kids?
well, one's 11 and the other one's turning 7. So
11 and 7.
uh,
Okay. The
they're old
11-year
men.
old, that sex talk is coming up.
Oh, I know, I
Yeah.
know. He's got questions already. He's not really embarrassed, which is it's kind of funny. I'm just like, yeah, okay, like, you don't worry, your pubes are coming, buddy. Like, just relax.
Yeah, the average age for sexual debut is 13.
Oh, wow.
So
So he's right there.
yeah. It's coming up, and always good to talk about sex positively,
Mhm.
so that they're not like sexually repressed.
No, well, note to self. I mean, I'm gonna have you back for that conversation, but
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
because it is interesting though, because it's a totally different mindset, and I think it's odd because it's like I already forgot what that was like almost. The innocence, like just the questions, where it's coming
Right.
from, like his reference points, and the other thing too, it's like I want to make sure to block out porn from him as much as possible and his
Mhm.
generation, because I'm starting to see a lot of things, which is I was going to ask you later about this too, but are you finding that, because like I just had a guest, Brooke Hazen, and he was the author of You Are Not Broke. He said his mid-40s, the guy was getting erectile difficulties just from like porn burnout. Are you
Yeah.
finding this to be more and more common right now, or?
Yeah. So with the rise of high-speed internet comes this
Mm-hmm.
huge group of cohort of sexual anxiety, erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, but mainly erectile dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
ED is super, super common. I mean, like all men will experience it at some point in their lives. And these are typically situational ED. So it comes and goes. But some
Yeah.
people have long term ED, right? The situational ED, it depends. If you're using substance or you're drinking too much, like you'll have ED for sure. It's just
Whiskey dick.
normal. Whiskey dick. It's a real thing, right? Like real
Yeah.
physiological thing. But that other type of sexual anxiety that cause ED usually comes from porn.
Mm-hmm.
And young men, I mean, really young men that I see sometimes 21 are already using Viagra.
What?
Yeah. I'm like, dude, you're 21. Your dick should be hard all the time.
Yeah. I mean, for
Just
myself, I could
kidding. But
totally
like
attest to
it's not
that.
an issue for sure. It's in the head. It's anxiety,
Yeah.
right? So it's definitely in the head. It's not your body. You don't need Viagra. You need to
I,
fix your mind.
Yeah, I'd imagine
Yeah.
it's a neurological issue, because I'm like, how are you gonna be at that age where it's like you're rock hard all day, every day, up until you're like 26?
I know a lot of men under 25 that use Viagra or Cialis.
Long term, what are the effects of that?
Reliance,
So it's
which
almost
is
like this guy's just
terrible.
creating. So it's almost like not an addiction, but it's almost like he's gonna be relying on this product for the rest of his life, it
Not an
seems.
addiction, but kind of, right? So
Yeah.
an addiction, it like disrupts your day. This is like not disrupting your day, but if you need it every time, then it's like over reliance. Over
Jeez.
reliance on anything is bad.
I would imagine, yeah, because it's almost
Right.
like you need
Can you
some.
imagine? Yeah, go out on a
Yeah.
date, like, oh shit, she's coming back to my apartment. Let me go run to the bathroom to take a Viagra real quick. Let me stall her for 10 minutes so it works. Like, it's a whole shit show.
Yeah, it's a dynamic that didn't exist back in my day. And I mean, I'm not that old, I'm like 34, right? So I'm like, how have the times just changed completely? Because it seemed like it's starting to become way more prevalent, but it's also strange in that it's accepted, but at the same time other things are taboo still. So I'm
Right.
just kind of like trying to figure all this stuff out. And more than anything, it's like obviously for the kids, but talking to guys that are older than me too, who are like, hey, this is how I've been affected. Like
Mhm.
my brain is not functioning properly, and I'm only a couple of years
No.
older than you. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah. So there's a big porn experimental research by Gary Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
Um, RIP, he just died.
Oh
But he
no,
wrote a book called Dr. Gary Wilson. He wrote a book called Your Brain on
your brain.
Porn.
Yeah,
Yeah, it changed you, man.
yeah, no,
It's scary. That's why
yeah,
I make an effort to not watch too much porn. Like make an effort. Like if I watch it intentionally and I watch it in a
mm-hmm.
very short amount of time, like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Um, and I watch ethical porn in which I've been suggesting to everyone.
What is that all about? Because I don't know anything.
Yeah. So ethical porn mimics real life sexual situations. So the
Gotcha.
foreplay is much longer. The attraction is typically pretty honest. Like the porn actors, they get acclimated much longer. It's
Hmm.
and also everyone gets paid. Like there's equal pay. Everyone gets paid fairly. Everyone see their contracts fairly. And it's filmed in a very sex positive environment. No one's being bullied or yelled at. um but the main part that I like is that it's a realistic sexual situation video.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is not something that we're used to. Because it's funny you mentioned
No,
that.
no, no. Yeah.
I think I was watching something on a female director on one of these sets, and she's like, "We need something for us ladies because what we're watching right here in the mainstream makes no sense for us. It's like
Right.
nobody's gonna do that on Tuesday night."
No, no. Like guy walks in, like opens the door, like slams the door, pull down the skirt and just penetrate. Like,
Yeah,
ouch.
yeah,
I'm dry as fuck.
yeah. It's like nothing, just in
Yeah,
there,
it's
bam,
not
bam,
like
bam,
that.
bam.
Exactly. So that's why I've been advocating for ethical porn if you want to watch porn, but again, still like in moderation.
Yeah, I got you because it's kind of a slippery slope. I mean, I myself, I just try to avoid it, but sometimes you'll go on Twitter and you'll be like, "Ooh, look at that! It knows
Trigger
exactly what I
porn.
like."
Yeah, exactly. It's AI. It's very smart.
Well, that's just the thing with like the algorithms and stuff where it has everything planned out. And it's like, and it's weird too, because I'll go from like I went to TikTok and it's like, we know your preference. I'm like, bro, this is creepy, trying to
Yeah,
like get
it
out of
is
there.
creepy. And honestly, one thing about porn too is not only that it gives men anxiety about performance, it also gives men a wrong idea of sexual communication with women.
Hmm.
Um, I've noticed that men who take lessons from porn are much more disrespectful and vulgar when it comes to communicating with women.
Gotcha.
Almost like an entitled feeling of like, oh, like, if I say this, you will have sex with me. Um, I think that they learn these fake interactions from porn, which is very, very different from real interactions in
Hmm.
real life. Real life is common, like mutual attraction, a lot of laughing, a lot of talking about your hobbies, favorite memories, and then it goes into like, oh, I like you, let's kiss, right? And then it goes from there, not just like, I want to fuck, let's go home, right?
Yeah.
So I think it gives them the wrong idea of how to approach women,
Hmm.
and they approach women unsuccessfully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just kind of like a direct. It's funny you mentioned that too. There's a guy that I know that I actually work with, and he has absolutely no game, and he keeps coming and telling me these stories, and I'm just like, bro, why are you telling me these stories? They're awful. He's like, yeah, I went
Like,
up to
what does he
them.
do? Does he just go up to them like, you're beautiful, want to go to my hotel room?
Not even. It's even worse than that. He's like, he talks down to them, like, hey, I know you want me, and I'm like,
Oh, boo.
yeah, and
Oh,
I'm like,
that's,
what?
yeah. He's your friend. Like,
No,
that's so
he's
gross for a lot of women. That's so gross.
yeah. Well, no, he's a colleague I work with. I wouldn't consider him a friend. He's just like I'm like he's like 22, but I'm like, dude, do you have no game whatsoever where you actually think that's gonna work? He's like, well, yeah, you're supposed to
Right.
use sarcasm. I'm like, it hurts
Yeah,
my head.
no.
No, I'm like, I don't think you got to talk to a woman, bro. And he just, it's so strange, but it's kind of like that generational thing too, where it's like I feel like they should just swipe right and just I'm like, just stick to Tinder, man. Like,
Yeah, yeah. And maybe they have seen movies where jerks get dates, right? But
yeah,
again, those are movies, not real life.
no. And that whole
Right.
bad boy persona only works if you actually know what you're saying and how to use it because context and it's like tonality plays into it too, I would imagine. And
Right.
going back to your communication piece or communication just in general, it's like everything plays into it, man. It's not just like you're gonna say these words and hope that it works. It's like you might as well just throw it a prayer, man.
Right. Exactly. It's like if you're exhibiting that bad boy persona, then you're attracting daddy issues girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a disaster because it's you know, two people who need to work on themselves.
Which is not good for anybody, I don't think. But
No, no, no. The whole goal is that you meet someone that you really like who also loves improving themselves.
Mm-hmm. And that's another thing. I mean, teach their own, but it's like, hey, you got to make sure you know how to fish, because there's all kinds of fish out there, but it's almost like you'll attract somebody that may not be the right fit for you.
Exactly, exactly. And learning your patterns. I think a lot of men that I see in my practice and my male students, they tend to think like it's really hard to date.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to find a woman. And I'm like, why do you say that? And they're like, well, it just seems like they all want a rich dude.
Hmm.
Yeah. What do you think about this notion? I think people learn from like TikTok and stuff because there are a lot of like sarcasm, like sugar baby TikToks.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah.
do you think
Well,
about that?
I kind of feel that, you know what, on Instagram, and that you do see a lot of, I'm gonna say it's all fake anyways. It's all bullshit. And the thing is, like, for me being as old as I am now, where it's like I can see right through it. I'm like, that guy probably rented that Lambo. He's probably
Right.
renting that Rolex, and he's probably renting that chain, man. And he's got
Right.
like 3 sugar mamas that look like they just came out of the strip club, and he probably paid them too. And they all think it's real. But that's the thing. It's kind of like I can separate the fallacy from the actual facts. And the best way to go about that was like actually go out clubbing, or go to a bar, or go talk to some
Go see people in real
females.
life.
Yeah, or like go to university, man. Like go interact. It's almost like people are just glued to their phones, that I kind of feel there's a disconnect to reality just in general. And we're starting to see it play out more and more because so many people can't distinguish the differences anymore.
Oh my God, you're so on point with that. That was a great answer, by the way. My theory is the same, is that people that are single have more time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're on social media a lot, right? And they're
Yeah.
seeing these people on social media and they think that everyone is like that.
Yeah, I guess
So my
so.
young men in my life, they say that, dating is shitty. All girls want is just rich guys. Da da da. I'm like, is it because you follow these girls on Instagram and that's
Mm-hmm.
the only kind of content you see? Because a lot of women in my life want someone who's like equal to them or is like working hard and ambitious, not necessarily like Jeff Bezos. Like, is it that you're just consuming content from like these five influencers that, yes, maybe they want rich
Mm-hmm.
husbands, but that's their own misguided life, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean all women, billions of other women are like that. So you're on point there. I think there is a huge disconnect between real life and people who consume a lot of social media.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, you're starting to see it more and more, where it's almost like having likes, having subscriptions, almost, it almost seems like it's all like a form of currency for the younger generation. It's like it's not real anymore. It's almost like they're more addicted to the numbers they see and the statistics they see. But I'm like, what are you, man? Are you just like collecting data to see how valuable you are? Is that how you value yourself as a human being? And to me, it's like I said, I came from a different era, so I'm
Mhm.
not stuck to that. However, the younger the kids are and the more they're on tablets, and like even my son's like, I started a YouTube channel. I only got 300 views or something. I'm like, that's cool, man. That's 300 more. I mean,
300
imagine,
views, that's a
yeah.
lot.
Oh, you know what? So I guess that's good, man. He's like, yeah, but this guy got
Yeah.
3 million. And I'm like, well,
That too, social comparison too. And social comparison is also why people have sex issues. They watch porn and they're like, holy shit, my dick is like half the size of this porn star, right?
yeah,
The average hard penis size is 5 inches, like
yep,
hard, right? 5 inches with an erection. And I mean much less without an erection because a lot of people are shower, a grower, not
growers,
shower. They're growers,
yeah.
not shower. So, um, this like social comparison idea where in maybe in our generation people compare themselves with porn, now they compare themselves with everyone, millions of
Hmm.
people on social media, and they just think they don't have it when everyone has something to offer. You just have to keep honing that and then showing it confidently.
100%. And I mean, going back to the coaching side of things, because you're telling me about the dating coaching earlier on and how you're seeing these guys. How do you steer them into the right direction when they come to you with that mindset?
Oh, I love this question. You mean like when they're in a fixed mindset, how
Uh-huh.
do I
Yeah, like,
empower them to think with a growth mindset?
yeah.
I give them a small task and have them do that for like a week or two, and they will see that they can do it. And then after that, it's easier.
Gotcha. So it's
It's
almost
the
starting
big
off something
first
small.
big hump. Yeah, like
Hmm.
start small and like look at you. You're doing this already. Like, do you see this? You're doing this. right? And then after about a week or two, they're like, holy shit, I'm doing this. Like, I'm good at this. And then they start talking to their friends. Hey, I started doing this. I'm so good at it. Like, you should try. And one of the things that I have them do is a 5-minute sex meditation.
Okay. Tell us
And
more
it's
about
just 5 minutes. So
Okay.
it's easy.
How do you have that? I think you had it on your YouTube channel, right? Is it like a guided
Yes.
meditation or?
Yes. So for those of you that don't want that like to meditate quietly, you can do that too. But if you want a guide, I have free guided meditations on YouTube, and they're all sex meditation. So it focuses on like sexual thoughts and sensations in your body. And it's only 5 minutes. So close your eyes and just follow the instructions for 5 minutes. When you're done, you'll feel so accomplished. Two things. One, you'll feel like, oh, I did something sexual. And two, you meditated, which is like a huge, like personal growth thing now that people are really into, right? So after doing that for a week, you'll feel like, whoa, I've meditated the whole week. And I've seen my clients told their friends, like, I meditated this whole week, bro. What'd you do? And then they just keep doing it. They do make sure that they do it 3 times a week, every week. And when they feel more confident, up to the 10 minutes one, but just do the 5 minutes. There's research that show that it improves sexual functioning. So just do that.
Yeah, well, that's a great place to get started. I mean, for myself, it's kind of like, because I started learning about the monkey mind, and like I was telling you too, it's like I started to look into the more metaphysical side of things, I guess, and spiritual side of things. And you're like, okay, what does it really mean to be holistically healthy? And I started to go down that rabbit hole pretty intensely, right? This past 2-3 years. And even for myself, where I'm like, I feel completely different when I meditate for those 20 minutes daily versus when I don't. And I find that, it just calms me down. I feel peaceful. You feel more zen, right? It's like the Zen meditation, transcendental meditations, all that stuff really helps to just kind of balance things out. And I guess for somebody that's got sexual anxiety, he could definitely use that as well, right? To just calm himself down.
And it's like a regular meditation. So even like you can try that tonight with your wife. It's only 5 minutes, sit in bed together, listen to it for 5 minutes. It's like a regular meditation. It just talks about sex. So like, it's still calming. It's still helping you focus and calm down. But at the same time, think about sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think any guy's gonna have any problem with that. I mean,
right. Yeah. So, 5 minutes a day, whenever you can fit it in, before work, after work, before you go to bed, like anytime, really.
That's awesome. No, definitely. And I'll be sure I'm gonna add all the links. All the links will be in the description as always. And one thing before we head out for today, because we're coming up on that hour, but one thing I did want to ask you, what's kind of been the strangest study or the most bizarre thing you kind of found in your journey so far as a therapist in this subject?
Wow, a bizarre thing?
Yeah.
Dude, there are some bizarre things.
I could imagine.
I would say something like, I'm very open-minded. So if you're like into feet or into like whatever, I'm like, you're cool, man. Like, as long as you're respectful, everything's consensual, like you're cool. You do you. But there are things that I find very bizarre. Like coprophagia. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It's eating feces.
Is that a real thing?
Like, yeah, you get sexual arousal and then you masturbate while you like eat feces.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't want to end there though. So let's end with like 2 tips for men. But yeah, you asked bizarre. That's fucking bizarre, right?
That's gotta be the most bizarre that I've ever heard.
The most bizarre I've ever heard is like, why? But there is some scientific like explanation. So like, let's say when you were younger, maybe when you're like 11, and then you like saw your little brother's diaper, but at the same time, you also like had some kind of random erection. It's like, bam, it's in your head like that. Poop equals sexual arousal.
Oh man, it's kind of like just that rewiring of the brain.
That's why like some people, when they were into feet, right? Their foot fetish is very common. Millions of people are into it. So like, that's like when you saw feet and then you got an erection, or when you saw feet and you came, or like whatever it related to sex, or you saw feet of like Pamela Anderson's photo. and you
Yeah, I
got
can
an erection.
imagine.
So it's then you develop this fixation for feet. So it's actually like it's very common. So when it comes to the same logic applying to feces, you can kind of imagine.
Put those together.
That is
Oh, that's
bizarre, right?
interesting. That is pretty bizarre, but let's end
Yeah.
it on a more positive note. And
Yeah, let's end on a positive note. Here we go. Um, 3 tips for men when it comes to sexual communication. Number 1, please don't ask, did you come?
hmm, you should be
Never
able to
ask,
tell.
did you come? It's very like loaded, right? Instead, ask, how was it?
Ah, gotcha. Okay, okay.
Yes. Yeah. So not did you come? Ask, how was it? Number 2, ask, what else can I do?
Hmm.
Simple, but open, like you're right, like open for suggestions. This will not only allow your woman to feel like she can trust you, it will help her communicate her desires more and in turn have better sex and you guys can have better sex.
Yeah,
um
100%.
and then number 3, don't forget to also communicate your desire, what you want, what you desire, what you think contribute to great sex matters. It's a relationship of two. So yes, it's about her, but not just her. It's also you. So communicate your desires. And if you have anxiety in communicating, start with sexual meditation
Hmm.
and then go communicate.
Gotcha. And
That's
we
it.
have links to that. So
Yes, yes. This was such a fun conversation. Thanks for
no,
having me.
I had a great time, Dr. Tara. I mean, I'm gonna have to have you on again to ask, more strange questions and obviously better
Sure.
things as far
I
as,
can be your resident sex expert.
oh, 100%, 100%. Because I mean, I just got a million guys. I'm gonna tell them to send me more questions, and for the next time, we'll just
Let's
go.
do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, a
100%.
Q&A, guys.
Dr. Tara's Love Bites. Be sure to follow.
Yes. For sure.
On that note, any closing words and where can we find you?
Um, I wish you a very orgasmic day. And
Nice.
however you want to interpret that, make sure you have an orgasmic day. You can find me on lovebites.co, LUVBITES.co. That's my website and also my TikTok and Instagram.
Gotcha. On that note, guys, had an absolute blast. Dr. Tara, until we see you again.
With pleasure. Bye.